Hey guys, what is it? Topical Nate here, and today I am going to be doing our over/under for James Bond movies. But before we get to that, you should spy on the description box below and pop it open. We have links to our social media accounts as well as our Coffee and Patreon.
I totally agree with that, especially following Nate on Twitter. He has a whole thread where he tweeted about his favorite marsupials. Yeah, go follow him.
It's the possum.
But let's get on topic. First off, I had to do it. Octopussy.
So I think that most of the attention that Octopussy gets is because of its absolutely ridiculous name, which is that word existed when that movie came out. They knew what they were doing. And I love that because I feel like if you came out with a movie these days that was called Octopussy, I know Twitter and all that stuff didn't exist back then, but the internet would just be blowing up about it. And no one would take it as a serious spy thriller, but they did back then, and it worked, and that's awesome. I think Octopussy is perfectly rated as far as James Bond movies go. It's middle of the pack for me. It's definitely not bad. It's definitely not absolutely great. And then I think the name alone just bumps it up a few extra points, so I think it's perfectly rated.
Next, we have Daniel Craig's first in the role of James Bond, Casino Royale.
I am realizing now that some of these are going to be really tough because I feel like most Bond movies, for the most part, are perfectly rated. There's probably a handful that I have a strong opinion about. I feel like the movies that he came out with after this, minus the one not good one, kind of overshadow it. But I love Casino Royale. I think specifically because it was just such a different take on a James Bond movie. We spend so much time in one location, and James Bond typically ends up kind of being this sometimes we're in multiple countries, and if we're in one country, we're usually in a bunch of different locations within that one country. And there's a little bit of that at Casino Royale, but most of it does in fact take place at the casino. And the way that they introduced him in this film, such an homage to the way Sean Connery first got introduced, I love that as well. So I'm going to say that this one is very slightly underrated just because of the fact that I think it gets overshadowed by the rest of the Daniel Craigs, except one for the most part.
Next, we have probably the most famous, most recognizable Bond, Sean Connery's first in Over and Under with Dr. No.
Okay, so first ever James Bond movie. And for that reason alone, I'm going to say it's underrated because it's very good. It's a really good movie. And I don't think that if YouTube existed 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I don't think that would be the answer that I gave. But I feel like so many people really only know the Daniel Craig Bonds. And then a lot of people mostly only, a lot of people will know the Pierce Brosnan and then obviously Daniel Craig as well. And in my experience interacting with people who watch movies, not people who are part of a film-based subculture, they don't go back and watch old movies. If they go back and watch an old Connery Bond, they're probably going to watch Goldfinger. And because they're still not used to the slower pace of older movies, they're still going to find it really slow at some points. So I think Dr. No is going to be underrated just because I don't think that today it's going to get talked about nearly as much as it should because it kicked everything off, and it's this franchise started off hot right off the bat.
You mentioned him in the last movie, but it is Pierce Brosnan's GoldenEye. Not the video game that changed video games forever.
Correct.
But the movie.
The video game, in my opinion, was massively better than the movie itself. GoldenEye is okay. The Pierce Brosnan ones, I feel are the most of their time movies. And late 90s, early 2000s films, they all just really feel like late 90s and early 2000s movies. And so like there's a lot more of the 90s extreme packed into the Pierce Brosnan movies, like lots of action sports things and stuff like that. So they definitely feel, to me, way cheesy compared to a lot of the other Bonds, even the older ones that I feel are much more timeless than his. I'm honestly not like super aware of what the like collective social opinion on GoldenEye is, but I still feel like it's probably safe to say it's just a little overrated, because I think a lot of people are just going to attribute the video game's goodness to the film.
Well, this character, I don't think he had a video game, because I don't think I guess video games were around then. But it's Timothy Dalton and A License to Kill.
Okay, I like A License to Kill. Timothy Dalton is my least favorite Bond. I'll just throw it out there. Timothy Dalton's my least favorite Bond. A License to Kill, I feel like, is one of his better ones. I don't hear a ton of clamoring about it. I honestly don't ever really hear a ton of clamoring about any of the Timothy Dalton Bonds. I think a lot of them are just kind of what they are. I don't think that any of them are just like, damn, that movie's bad. I definitely personally don't feel like any of them stand head and shoulders. Like I don't think a single Timothy Dalton Bond movie is going to crack like my top 5 Bond movies. So I'm going to say it's perfectly rated, basing that off half my personal opinion and the other half being I don't ever really hear anybody talk about it. So
next we have a film that shares the same title as my favorite J. Cole album, For Your Eyes Only.
Okay. I like For Your Eyes Only. Bond titles, some of the best movie titles for sure.
That's factual.
Yeah, they have great movie titles. See, it's another one. I want to have a stronger opinion to keep things going. I still think it's just perfectly rated. It's just, when you hear people talk about Bond movies, I've seen For Your Eyes Only crack a fair amount of like people's top 10 lists, but it never makes it super far up there. I think it gets the respect that it deserves, and that's it. I think it gets the respect that it deserves. I don't think it gets an ounce more or an ounce less, so I'm going to say that one's just perfectly rated as well.
Next, we have Daniel Craig back as James Bond in the film Skyfall. This time, he's fighting Javier Bardem.
Right.
Which I haven't seen this movie, so he may or may not try to kill James Bond with one of the cow things.
He does not.
Sad day.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not watching it now.
Yeah. So Skyfall, one of the best Bond themes. Very, very good. I'm pretty sure it was Adele on that one. Javier Bardem, he's a good actor. His character in this, not the most well-written character ever. It's tough. I'm going to say slightly overrated. Because out of the Daniel Craig films, it isn't as bad as Spectre, but it's also not good, in my opinion. And I feel like with the Daniel Craig stuff, Spectre definitely gets most of the hate, like almost all of the hate for Daniel Craig films. And that doesn't mean that everything else just gets an automatic pass. I feel like Skyfall was way too long. And if you're going to have a movie that long, it's got to keep me engaged more. It's really not bad, but it's also not good. And so I'm going to say just a touch overrated.
Critically fresh at 95% of Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm glad to see you're not a sheep.
Yeah.
But don't get confused by this film title, because there's a film just like it. Mm-hmm. And it is The Spy Who Loved Me. Not to get confused with The Spy That Shagged Me.
Right. I really like The Spy Who Loved Me. I'm going to say that one's a little bit underrated. I feel like most of the ones that I think are underrated are going to be just because they're older Bond films and aren't going to catch as much attention. And maybe that I think that's a bad thing. Like, in the collective pool of movies and everything, I think there's an argument to be made that, like, they got the attention they deserved during their time, and now it's time to move on. But some of these Bond films really do stand the test of time to me. This is one that does for me as well. I really enjoy The Spy Who Loved Me, and it also inspired The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I think is an absolutely hilarious movie and, like, has some really, really good like Bond references. Like, it's funny to anyone, but if you know the James Bond franchise, there's also just so many things in there that, like, you can pick up on that they took the time to add. And a lot of them come from The Spy Who Loved Me. So I'm going to say it's a touch underrated.
Next, I picked this film because it had a naked woman in gold on the cover, and it is Goldfinger.
So Goldfinger, I think, in my opinion, it's the best Sean Connery Bond movie. And I think that if you look at a lot of lists, it's probably going to be like the number one overall Bond movie in terms of the story, in terms of the acting, in terms of the pacing, all of that stuff. I personally believe collectively that this is the best Bond movie. And I think that it gets put in that position a lot when people are ranking and rating and reviewing Bond movies even today. Goldfinger is a great villain. Oddjob is a great henchman, and like the Bond girl's name is Pussy Galore. Like, that's her name. They put a character in a movie named Pussy Galore.
That's my kind of woman.
And she's my kind of woman. Like, I love, like, she's fucking awesome, dude. Freaking love her. Like a fucking ace pilot and shit. So I think Goldfinger is perfectly rated because it is very often just like hoisted to the top of like the collective Bond franchise. So
next we have the penultimate movie, and I picked this one for the title as well, and it is Diamonds Are Forever, and it is in a Ric Flair promo where he says Diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair. Woo!
Yeah. Diamonds Are Forever. Again, if I was going to make a list of like top 5 Bond themes, I think that this would be in there. That song is super catchy. I like it a lot. The Diamonds Are Forever doesn't super impress me. And I, again, don't really hear a lot of people talk about this one. I think it is fair to say there are so many Bond films, like obviously there are going to be some that just don't get talked about as much as others, but to me, that is just showing that they don't live up to the expectations that a lot of the other ones set. So I'm going to say perfectly rated for Diamonds Are Forever as well. Definitely not one of my favorites, but it doesn't seem to be anyone's favorite, so it's fine where it's at.
Lastly, we have another Ric Flair reference because this film stars, well, he's in the movie, not the star, but his former tag team championship partner, Dave Bautista, and the film is Spectre.
Okay. It hurts me to see Christoph Waltz in a not good movie because I love him so much. Again, so Spectre, I think that everyone can agree, is the worst Daniel Craig Bond movie. There's too much going on plot-wise, one too many villains. It's too fucking long, and that it just is what it is. But the thing is that we all know that especially in terms of Bond movies, it's not that good. So I have to say perfectly rated because I think I agree with everyone that says that. So it is perfectly rated. It deserves to be where it's at, and it deserves all of the disdain and shitting on that it got. And that sucks because I want every Bond movie to be good, and I want every movie with Christoph Waltz in it to be good. But beggars can't be choosers. But what you can choose to do is scroll down to the comment section.
I had a quick question. I've never seen the movie.
Oh, that was a really good transition.
It was. I'm sorry. Everyone says that movie sucks and it's such a blemish on the Bond franchise. Like, I've heard all that.
Yeah.
But it is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
When I saw it, it confused me because I was like, man, I thought this would be like you know, it's not terrible, but in the 40s, like mid-40s.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fresh.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show you, like, I think that just speaks to how good collectively the franchise has been. I mean, like, personally, like, I'll still take Spectre over all but maybe one of the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies. Like, they just, like, and I think it really just comes down to the fact that the Pierce Brosnan movies, the farther we get away from them, like, they're almost going to be like farcical because of how just big of examples of like 90s and 2000s filmmaking they are. Like, they are not going to stand the test of time. 20 years from now, if someone watches a Pierce Brosnan Bond movie, they're not going to think, wow, this is like classic cinema, which, like, ouch, that at that point in time, that will be classic cinema. But I think that, like, a fresh score is fair for Spectre, but Daniel Craig has made some incredible Bond films, and he set that his own expectation for these films. And it's not his fault that movie's bad. I mean, he didn't fucking write it, you know, like, he didn't direct it. So it's not on him. I mean, he played Bond the way that he's played Bond in every other movie, but the expectations are so high for those. So it's like, for it to fall that low, like, it makes me proud of critics for being able to, like, separate that and judge the film for what it is and see that it is still deserving of a fresh score. It is just definitely not what everyone wanted. And that's okay, because you're not always going to get what you want. But what you might want is to scroll down to the comment section below and open it up and let me know what you think about these Bond films. Am I right? Am I wrong? What's your favorite Bond movie? Let me know. You can do it down there. Scroll back up, hit the like button, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.